At my grandfather's funeral, my girlfriend whispered, "Can we leave? This is so boring and I have brunch plans." I said, "You should go." She left. I stayed, gave the eulogy, and never called her again. When she texted 3 days later asking, "Are we good?" I sent her a single period and blocked her number. Her voicemails when she realized. Original post. I, 29 male, buried the only father figure I ever knew last Tuesday. My grandfather raised me from the time I was 6. He taught me how to tie a tie, how to change a tire, and how to look a person in the eye when you shake their hand. He was the kind of man who didn't demand respect. He just commanded it by existing. When he passed, it felt like the floor fell out of my world. I've been dating the girlfriend for about 8 months. In hindsight, the red flags were there. She was always a little too concerned with how things looked on Instagram, a little too bored when the conversation wasn't about her or her immediate circle. But when you're in it, you make excuses. You tell yourself she's just spirited or knows what she wants. The funeral was in a small, suffocatingly hot chapel. It was packed. My grandfather touched a lot of lives. I was sitting in the front pew, staring at the wood grain on the casket, trying to keep my breathing steady because I had to get up and speak in 10 minutes. The girlfriend was sitting next to me. She'd been shifting in her seat for the last 20 minutes. Heavy sighs, crossing and uncrossing her legs. The wood of the pew creaked every time she moved. It was distracting, but I ignored it. I was in the zone, trying to remember the opening line of my eulogy. Then, right in the middle of the pastor's prayer, I felt a sharp tap on my thigh. I turned my head slightly. The girlfriend was leaning in close, the smell of her floral perfume suddenly overpowering the scent of old wood and lilies. She held up her phone. The brightness was turned all the way up, cutting through the dim religious light like a beacon. She whispered, loud enough that my aunt across the aisle definitely heard, "Can we leave? This is so boring, and I have brunch plans with the best friend at 1 o'clock." I stared at her. I looked at her perfectly done makeup, her bored expression, the way she was already tapping her thumb against the screen of her phone, waiting for a reply. It wasn't malicious. It was worse. It was total, vacuous indifference. To her, this wasn't a tragedy. It was a scheduling conflict. Something inside me just clicked off. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sorrow. It was just the sound of a breaker tripping in a basement. The connection was cut. I turned back to her. I didn't whisper. I spoke in a normal, flat voice. "You should go." She blinked, looking confused. "What? You're coming, right? We could take your car." "No," I said. "I'm staying. You should go. Now." She looked offended. She actually huffed, grabbed her purse, and squeezed past me, stepping over my feet. She didn't look back. She walked down the center aisle, heels clicking loudly on the tile, checking her phone as she pushed through the heavy oak doors. I watched her leave. Then I stood up, walked to the podium, and gave a eulogy. I didn't stutter. I didn't cry. I spoke about honor and loyalty, two things I suddenly realized were in short supply in my personal life. I went home alone. I turned off my phone. I drank a glass of the cheap scotch my grandfather liked, stared at the wall, and fell asleep on the couch in my suit. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. And here is the kicker. She didn't contact me either. For 3 days. Radio silence. I found out later from a mutual acquaintance that she was waiting for me to apologize. In her head, I had embarrassed her by making her leave alone. I had been moody and distant on a day she had set aside for me by attending the funeral for an hour. She was punishing me with silence. 3 days later, Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. The girlfriend, "Are we good?" "No, how are you?" "No, sorry about your loss." Just a temperature check to see if I was done being sad, so we could resume her scheduled programming. I looked at the text. I felt absolutely nothing. No desire to explain why what she did was unforgivable. No energy to argue. I typed a single character. Me. Sent. Then I went to settings. Block caller. Then I went to Instagram. Block. Snapchat. Block. It took her about 2 hours to realize what had happened. I guess the delivered status didn't change to read on the follow-up text I assume she sent. That evening, I was eating takeout, finally feeling a little human again. My phone started vibrating on the table. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Unknown number. Voicemail. This happened 4 times. Finally, the transcription notification popped up. I played the first one. Are you serious right now? You're blocking me? Because I wanted to get food? You are being so dramatic. Call me back. I have tickets for that festival next weekend, and we need to discuss logistics. Second voicemail. Okay, you're actually scaring me. This is narcissistic behavior. You know that? Silent treatment is abuse. My mom said you're probably just grieving, but this is taking it out on me. Pick up the phone. Third voicemail. You are such a child. I sat in that dusty church for an hour for you. I supported you, and you kicked me out. I'm done playing games. Unblock me right now, or we have a serious problem. I deleted them. I didn't respond. I finished my noodles. I realized then that I wasn't just grieving a death. I was grieving the time I wasted on someone who couldn't even pretend to care for 5 minutes. She thinks this is a fight. She thinks this is a rough patch. She doesn't realize that when I said you should go, I meant forever. Update 1. 5 days later. The silence didn't last. Of course it didn't. The weekend was quiet, mostly. I spent it boxing up some of my grandfather's things, which was heavy but necessary work. I was feeling surprisingly okay. The absence of the girlfriend, now the ex, was actually making the grieving process easier. I didn't have to perform sadness for her, or hurry up and get over it to accommodate her brunch schedule. Monday evening, I was at home. I live in a decent apartment complex, 2nd floor. Secure entry, but people tailgate in all the time. Around 6 p.m., there was a heavy pounding on my door. Not a knock. A police knock. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't the police. It was the ex, and she had backup. Her best friend, the brunch date, was standing behind her, looking arms crossed and righteous. I didn't open the door. I have a camera doorbell installed. A parting gift from my grandfather who always said, trust everyone but cut the cards. I spoke through the intercom. Go away, I said. Through the camera feed, I saw the ex jump. She glared at the lens. Open the door, she yelled. I know you're in there. You can't just steal my property. Property? She didn't live with me. She had never lived with me. She stayed over maybe 2 nights a week. I don't have your property, I said calmly. Leave. My hoodie, my skincare bag, and the charger, she screamed. And I want the money for the festival tickets. You owe me. Okay, the property. She had left a faded university hoodie, a small bag of face creams she kept in my bathroom, and a generic phone charger. I walked to the closet near the entryway. I had actually packed this stuff into a grocery bag the day I blocked. Her anticipating this. I grabbed the bag. I opened the door, kept the chain on. She lunged forward immediately, trying to push the door open. Let me in. We need to talk. I shoved the plastic grocery bag through the gap. It hit her in the chest. There's your stuff, I said. We have nothing to talk about. You can't do this. The best friend chimed in. You're having a mental breakdown. You need closure. I have closure, I said. She left the funeral. That was the closure. It was a funeral. The ex shouted. It's not like it was a wedding. He's dead. He doesn't care if I leave. You're being a psycho. I slammed the door and locked the deadbolt. I'm calling the cops, she screamed through the wood. You stole my money. Here is where the entitlement gets funny or sad. The festival tickets. 3 weeks ago, she wanted to go to this music festival. She didn't have the cash in her account at the moment. She asked me to buy the VIP passes, 2 of them, about $400 each, and promised to Venmo me her half when her paycheck hit. I bought them. She never Venmo'd me. Now, she wanted her ticket, or the money for it. I sat on my couch and waited. About 20 minutes later, actual police knocked. I opened the door. 2 officers. They looked tired. The ex and the best friend were standing behind them, looking smug. The ex was doing a fake sniffle, wiping non-existent tears. Sir, the older officer said, we have a report of theft and refusal to return property. I returned her property, I said. A hoodie and some toiletries. I handed it to her 20 minutes ago. The officer looked at the ex. He kept my festival ticket, she said. It's worth $400. He's holding a hostage because he's abusive and controlling. The officer looked back at me. Sir, I purchased 2 tickets on my credit card, I said. They are my name. I bought them as a set. She never paid me for them. They're my property. I was going to pay him, she interrupted. That was the agreement. That means one is mine. Did you pay him? The officer asked her. No, Because he blocked me, she shrieked. How can I pay him if he blocked me? So you haven't paid for the item you're claiming is yours? The officer clarified. He looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. He gifted it to me, she pivoted. It was a gift. You can't take back a gift. I pulled out my phone. I had the text thread saved. Grandpa also taught me. Document everything. I showed the officer the text from 3 weeks ago. The ex, babe, please buy the ticks before they sell out. I will Venmo you Friday, promise. Me done. $860 total. She promised to pay, I said to the cop. She didn't. It's not a gift. The officer handed my phone back. He turned to the ex, ma'am, this is a civil matter. If you want the money or the ticket, you'll have to take him to small claims court. We can't force him to give you something he purchased. But he's stealing from me, she yelled. The poor victim mask was slipping, revealing the rage underneath. And, I added, looking at the officer, I have formally asked her to leave my property. She is now trespassing. The officer nodded. You heard him, ladies. Time to go. Don't come back here, or we will have a different conversation. The look on her face. It wasn't regret. It was pure, unadulterated shock that the universe wasn't bending to her will. She looked at the cops like they were traitors. You're useless, she snapped at the officer. Let's go, ma'am, the officer said, his hand resting on his belt. Not aggressive, just firm. They left. I heard the ex screaming all the way down the hall about how I was a loser and how she was too good for this. I went back inside. I logged onto the ticket vendor site. I listed both VIP passes for resale. They sold in an hour. I made a $50 profit. I took that money and donated it to the hospice center that cared for my grandfather. I thought that would be it. I really did. I underestimated how much energy entitled people will expend to avoid admitting they are wrong. Yesterday, I got an email. Not from her. From her mother. Subject line, disappointed. I didn't open it yet. I'm saving it for when I have the mental bandwidth. But I see the preview. It starts with, I never thought you were the kind of man to abandon a woman in her time of need. Her time of need. I bury my father figure. She missed brunch. But sure, she's the victim. Update 2. 1 week later. So, things got stupider. I finally opened the email from a mother. It was exactly what you'd expect. 1,000 words of gaslighting. According to the mother, the ex wasn't bored at the funeral. She was having a panic attack due to the overwhelming atmosphere of death, and her comment about brunch was her coping mechanism to ground herself. Right? Grounding herself with bottomless mimosas. The email demanded I apologize, unblock her daughter, and make this right financially because apparently the ex is so distraught she couldn't work this week. She works part-time at a boutique. I'm sure the economy will collapse without her. I didn't reply. I sent the email to a folder labeled Trash Fire and moved on. But the real fun began on social media. Since I blocked her, I couldn't see her posts, but mutual friends, the few real ones I have, started sending me screenshots. She went on a campaign. She posted a photo of herself crying with a filter, obviously, with a caption. Sometimes the person you support through their darkest times turns around and abuses you the second you show a moment of weakness. Scared. Alone. But surviving. Hashtag narcissist survivor. Hashtag toxic masculinity. She didn't mention the funeral details. She just vaguely alluded to me having a mental break and kicking her out of our home, my apartment, where she didn't live, because she asked for space. It worked initially. I got a few angry DMs from people I barely know calling me a pig. Then, she overplayed her hand. She started telling people that I owed her thousands of dollars. She claimed she had paid for the funeral expenses and I had pocketed the money. This is where she messed up. My grandfather had a prepaid funeral plan. Everything was paid for in 1998. The only thing I paid for was the flowers and the reception catering. I wasn't going to engage, but accusations of theft are where I draw the line. It affects my reputation, and I work in a field where background checks matter. I drafted a single post. I didn't tag her. I didn't name her. I just posted a photo of the funeral program and a redacted bank statement showing the funeral home costs were $0 due to the prepaid plan. The caption read, "Grieving is hard enough without lies. My grandfather paid for his own funeral 20 years ago. No one loaned me money. No one supported me financially. And if you left the service before the eulogy to go to brunch, please stop posting about how much you supported me. It was petty? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. The mutual friends who were on the fence suddenly went quiet. A few liked the post. The ex's narrative crumbled because it was built on easily verifiable lies. But she wasn't done. 2 days ago, I came home from work and found an invoice taped to my door. It was a handwritten bill from the ex. Itemized. Consulting fee, emotional labor during your grieving, $500. Personal stylist fee, choosing your suit, $200. Time wasted at hospital visits, last month, $600. Festival tickets, stolen, $800. Total owed, $2,100. She was charging me for visiting my dying grandfather. She was charging me for emotional labor. I stood in the hallway and stared at this piece of notebook paper. It was manic. It was the scribbling of someone who cannot process the word no. I took a photo of it. Then I went to the leasing office. I showed the landlord the camera footage of her banging on the door last week, the police report number, and now this note taped to my door. I'm being harassed, I told him. She doesn't live here. She is not on the lease. If she is seen on the property again, I want her trespassed immediately. My landlord is a grumpy old guy who hates drama. He looked at the bill and snorted. She charging you for hospital visits? That's low. Yeah, I said. I'll tell security. If her car comes through the gate, we tow it. I wish I could say she learned her lesson. But entitled people don't learn. They just escalate until they hit a wall they can't scream down. The wall arrived yesterday in the form of a cease and desist letter. I paid a lawyer friend $300 to draft it. It wasn't a lawsuit, just a formal warning. It cited the defamation, lying about the funeral money, and the harassment. It stated clearly that any further contact would result in a restraining order application and a defamation suit. I sent it certified mail to her mother's house, where the ex is apparently staying now. I got a delivery notification this morning. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let go to voicemail. Transcript. You are ruining my life. My mom is freaking out. You got lawyers involved over a breakup? You are sick. I just wanted what I was owed. You're supposed to be the man. You're supposed to take care of things. I hope you're right. She sounds terrified. Good. Update 3. The end. It's been a month. The silence has finally stuck. The cease and desist worked, mostly because the mother realized that a defamation suit would expose the fact that they were lying about the funeral money. The mother cares about her reputation more than she cares about her daughter's feelings. I imagine the conversation in that house was loud and unpleasant. I haven't heard from the ex. No texts, no invoices, no police visits. However, the fallout in our social circle was interesting. I lost about half the friends we shared. They didn't explicitly take her side, but they didn't want to be around the drama. They drifted away. I'm fine with that. If you can look at a situation where a woman leave a funeral for brunch and think both sides have a point, I don't need you in my life. The best friend, brunch girl, tried to get me fired. This was her last-ditch effort. She sent an anonymous email to my company's HR department claiming I was unstable and had violent tendencies and had stolen money from a woman. Luckily, my boss is a human being with a brain. He called me in. I explained the situation. I showed him the police report, which listed me as the reporting party for trespassing and the cease and desist. He laughed. Breakups are hell, son, he said. Ignore it. Keep your head down. The ex is currently dating a new guy. I know this because one of the few mutual friends who stuck around, let's call him the real one, showed me her Instagram. She posted a picture with some guy at a winery 3 days ago. Caption, finally found someone who knows how to treat princess. No drama, just love. Hashtag upgrade. The guy looks young. He looks eager to please. I almost feel bad for him. Almost. But he'll learn. We all learn eventually. As for me, I'm sitting in my apartment. It's quiet. I still have the urn on my mantle. I haven't decided where to scatter the ashes yet. I kept the festival money donation receipt. I put it in the box with my grandfather's medals. The most satisfying part of all of this isn't that I won. I didn't win. I lost a relationship. I lost friends, and I had to deal with cops and lawyers while grieving. The satisfaction comes from the quiet. I used to stress so much about making her happy, about her boredom, about her needs. Now I just have my own needs. I made coffee this morning. I drank it on the balcony. I didn't have to check if the temperature was right for anyone else. I didn't have to worry if the sound of the grinder woke anyone up. I thought about my grandfather. He would have hated her. He was just too polite to say it while he was alive. I think he would be proud of the "you should go." It wasn't a revenge fantasy. I didn't destroy her life. She's still out there, being entitled, drinking mimosas, making someone else miserable. But she's not making me miserable. And honestly, that's enough justice for me. My lawyer friend told me I could probably sue her for the stress or the harassment, maybe get a judgment for the legal fees. I told him no. She isn't worth the paperwork. I'm done. The period at the end of that text was the best thing I ever wrote.